Story 1. The same customer came in every night, wearing the same wet clothes. This happened to me in 2019. I was 24, working the night shift at a 24-hour gas station just off a highway in northern Oregon. Back then, I didn't think much about patterns or routines. I liked them. They made the long shifts feel shorter. The station was quiet at night, between 2 and 4 a.m. There were usually no customers, just the low hum of the fridge compressors and the occasional thud from the ice machine. I'd wipe counters, restock coolers, stare at the CCTV screens. That's how I first noticed him. It was late October, maybe the 23rd or 24th, the kind of week where it starts getting dark before dinner and the wind makes everything feel hollow. That night, I'd just mopped near the back when I saw movement on the monitors. A man had entered, tall, early 40s maybe, thin frame, pale face. What stood out first was his clothes. He was soaked, dark jeans and a grey zip-up hoodie, both clinging to him like he'd just come out of a lake. His shoes made wet, squelching sounds across the tiles. He didn't say a word, just walked in, went directly to the back cooler, the second glass door from the right, stared at a green bottle of iced tea, didn't pick it up, then turned around and left. I remember thinking maybe he got caught in the rain. But when I looked out the window, it was dry. Not a drop. The pavement was bone dry too. It was weird, sure, but I didn't think much of it. Until the next night. Same time, same man, same wet clothes, same steps. Like he was following a marked trail. He looked straight ahead, walked to the cooler, stared at the same bottle, didn't touch it, then turned and walked out. This time I noticed something new, the exact way he moved. His shoulders stiff, hands loose at his sides. He blinked once, maybe twice. His shoes left faint prints, but he moved like he wasn't aware of me or anything else. By the third night, I started recording it. I knew the station cameras auto-recorded, but I wanted a separate clip for myself. I pulled out my phone and captured the screen. Exact same time. 2:46 a.m. The footage was nearly identical. I synced them side by side. Same number of steps, same hand twitch before turning, same glance at the bottle. That bottle, green cap, faded label, had been sitting in the cooler for at least a month. No one bought it. I went back through the DVR. Sure enough, there were other nights. Grainy footage from earlier in the month. Always 2:46 a.m., always wet, always silent. The manager didn't believe me. I told him the guy kept coming in and that something was off about him. He laughed it off and said as long as he didn't steal, it was fine. So I stopped mentioning it, but I kept watching. On the 7th night, I tried to talk to him. I waited behind the counter, heart racing. When he entered, I stepped around the register and said, "Hey, you all right, man?" No reaction, not even a flicker. He moved past me like I wasn't there. Up close, the smell hit me. Not like sweat or rain, more like something sour and stagnant. Pond water, iron, rot. After he left, I followed him out. The parking lot was empty. No car, no footsteps. Just the faint trail of water where his shoes had been. I watched him walk toward the tree line behind the gas station, then vanish. He didn't turn, didn't look back, just disappeared into the dark. I went back inside and pulled the footage. It was all there, just like the others. Same entry, same glance. I stopped sleeping well after that. Every night I'd wait. 2:46 a.m. became a ritual. Some people feel comfort in patterns. They think repetition means control. But what I saw felt different. It didn't feel human. It felt like a recording that somehow found its way into real life. And every night it played again. The first time I noticed the puddle, I thought it was my fault. I had mopped earlier that night, near the back, by the fridge section. I figured maybe I didn't dry it right. But when I stepped closer, I saw the pattern. It wasn't a spill, it was a trail. The kind shoes make when soaked, alternating left-right prints that ended about 6 feet from the door. I touched one with my finger. Cold. Not normal cold, ice cold. and sticky like pond water or something untreated. The surface of it shimmered strangely, like it wasn't just reflecting light, like it had depth. I grabbed the mop, pressed down hard. Nothing. The water didn't absorb. It just sat there. I tried again, harder. Same thing. The mop glided over it like it wasn't water at all. After 10 minutes of trying, I gave up. I got some paper towels, crouched down and pressed with my whole palm. Still nothing. My skin came away damp, but the puddle stayed the same size. The trail remained. I checked it every hour until sunrise. It never changed. Then at 6:10 a.m., as the sun crept through the front glass, I walked back to check it one last time before my shift ended. Gone. Completely. No stain, no moisture. The tile was dry and smooth, like nothing had ever been there. The same thing happened the next night. He walked in, soaked to the bone, glanced at the bottle, left. And behind him, the same trail, wet footprints ending mid-aisle, water that didn't soak or dry, cold enough to make my fingers ache. This time, I set a chair near it and waited. No one else came in. I stayed awake the whole shift. At sunrise, 6:10 again, the puddle was gone. It became routine. I stopped mopping it, just watched. Some nights it was fainter, other nights clearer. Once there was even a faint drag between the steps, like one foot had stopped working. That night, I swear, he limped slightly. The motion was still mechanical, but there was a hitch, a slight falter on the right leg. I checked the cooler bottle that night. It had a date stamp. XP, 10/26/14. I felt a chill. That bottle had expired years ago, way before I ever started working there. I asked the day clerk about it. He shrugged. That cooler? Half the stuff in there's leftovers. We rotate new stock up front. The more I thought about it, the more that made sense. Some water doesn't come from rain. Some water comes from memory. I never really believed in supernatural things. I liked logic, patterns, but I started looking things up. There's a term, I don't remember where I read it, chronotraumatic residue. It refers to places where time seems to collapse around a specific event, trauma caught in a loop, not ghosts, more like imprints. The phrase stuck with me. I was on a forum late one night reading about loop entities. Not spirits exactly, more like routines that replay themselves through people. It creeped me out, especially the parts about trauma revisiting itself through a person's exact motions, posture, steps, eye movements, over and over. I couldn't stop thinking about the man. Why that bottle? Why 2:46 a.m.? Why wet? I dug deeper. Public records, local accidents, weather archives, and then I found it, a PDF of a small-town newspaper. October 27th, 2014. Headline, Local Man Dies in Overnight Flash Flood. I clicked it. His name was Caleb R. Hanley, 42. He had been driving home late after his shift, got caught in sudden high water just behind the old Chevron off the highway. Ditch overflowed, car flipped. The current pinned him underwater for almost 7 minutes before help arrived. The estimated time of death, 2:46 a.m. I stared at the article for what felt like an hour. The photo wasn't clear, just a blurry image of the crash site, but I could make out the tree line behind the gas station. That same one he always walked toward. I read the paragraph again and again. It said he had just left work. No sign of drugs or alcohol. Only a bottle of green tea in the passenger seat, unopened. That was it. I never saw him after that week. Not once. 2:46 a.m. Came and went. No footsteps. No puddle. The bottle disappeared too. No one mentioned it. No one asked. Sometimes I wonder if finding the article ended it, or if the loop just moved somewhere else. I've never told anyone. Not really. I still have the video and the screenshot of the article, but I deleted the footage from my phone because if it was a loop, if it was something real, I didn't want to invite it back. Some routines don't belong to time. Some just wait for someone to watch. Story 2. The phones started ringing, but the office was empty. This happened to me in 2018. I was 30, working overnight security for a regional health administration office in central Pennsylvania. It wasn't a hospital. More like the back-end logistics building where medical billing, HR and scheduling departments operated. The building had 5 floors, but overnight only the security staff was present. Just me, one person. My job was simple. Log badge entries, respond to alarms, patrol the floors every hour. The pay was good and it was quiet. Too quiet sometimes. The first 2 months were uneventful. I'd show up at 10 p.m., make my first sweep, badge into the elevators, flashlight checks through cubicles, stairwells, server closets, then back down to the security office on the first floor. A small, windowless room with 2 monitors, a desk and a chair that leaned a little too far back. I didn't mind the isolation. No supervisors breathing down my neck, just paperwork and silence. But silence has its weight. One night, sometime in early May, I started hearing things. It began with breathing, not mine, not exactly. I first noticed it during a sweep on the 3rd floor. That level had a wall of cubicles stretching from the elevators to the far end, broken by glass offices along the sides. As I walked down the main hallway, I paused, and I heard it. A soft, steady inhale. Then out. Quiet. Almost imperceptible. But it matched my own. I held my breath. It stopped. I took a slow step forward. My shoe creaked slightly. The breathing started again, this time just behind me, maybe 10 feet back. Same rhythm, almost the same lung. I turned around. Empty hallway. I walked back toward the elevator, forcing myself to stay calm. The thing is, when you work alone for long enough, you rationalize everything. I told myself it was echo, that the sound was bouncing through the vents. Or maybe I was just hearing myself, slightly delayed. But from that night on, I noticed it again. Sometimes in the stairwell, other times near the break room on the 4th floor. It didn't sound threatening. That was the worst part. It sounded like me, like my own breath, but half a second behind. On May 14th, something changed. I was in the basement storage level. That area always creeped me out a little. It had no windows, and the lights were dimmer than the rest of the building. I was halfway through my sweep when I paused next to the old HR file cabinets. I bent to tie my bootlace, and I heard it again. An exhale, identical to mine, but late. I stood up, listened, and then, the worst part, I timed it. I deliberately inhaled through my nose, slowly. Waited. It came again. Same pace, same pitch, just after. I left the basement early. Back in the office, I closed the door, stared at the monitors. I turned off the audio feed from the security cams. I didn't want to hear anything else, but I could still feel it, that breath, brushing against the back of my thoughts. Not quite mine, like something was practicing, mimicking, but never quite catching up. The office had a voicemail system, even for security. We had a phone line in the monitoring room, mostly for maintenance updates or emergency dispatch. No one ever called, not at night, until they did. It was 3:08 a.m., the Tuesday after the breathing incident started. The landline rang once, just once. I looked up, confused. Phones don't usually do that. A single ring and stop. I picked it up anyway. Nothing, just the line tone. I hung up, checked the call log, no entry. That was odd. Later that night, while reviewing the building entry log, the red voicemail light blinked on the phone console. That light hadn't blinked in the months I'd worked there. I clicked into the messages. All were marked deleted, except one. Timestamp, 3:08 a.m. I hit play. At first, just static. No voice. Then, faintly, as if underwater, a breath. Then the whisper, "You're not alone in this body." I froze. The voice didn't sound like anyone I knew, but something about the tone, the cadence, felt familiar. The message stopped. I stared at the phone. It blinked once. Then the message disappeared from the list. I backed out, refreshed the console. Nothing. No voicemail, no timestamp, no file. I tried to re-access the memory folder, even checked under the admin view. Empty. I reported it in the log as malfunction. That night I didn't sleep when I got home. I played the message in my head over and over. You're not alone in this body. Who says that? Why not alone in this building or room? Why body? I started doubting myself. Maybe it didn't happen. Maybe I imagined it. But then, at the end of my shift, the phone rang again. 3:08 a.m., single ring, silence. And that was the last time it ever rang. There's a term I came across later, third-person identity fatigue. It's when night shift workers lose sense of real-time self. You begin to see yourself on screens more than mirrors. You trust the feed over memory. That's where I was by the end of May. I started reviewing footage compulsively, not for anything in particular, just to check, to make sure I was where I thought I'd been. Tuesday the 22nd. I remember the date because it was the first time I saw it. I was scanning footage from earlier in the night, mostly hallway loops. At 1:04 a.m., I watched myself badge into the third floor. Only I didn't remember doing that. I thought I skipped that sweep. I played the clip. There I was, walking down the main hallway, normal pace, same uniform, flashlight in hand. Except I wasn't holding my clipboard, and I always carry that. I rewound again. Same footage, same walk, but slightly off. Then I paused it on a frame. Glass door on the right side. It showed a reflection. My reflection, but not just mine. Behind me, barely visible in the door's glare, was a second shadow, taller. Shoulders hunched forward, arms slightly bent outward, like it didn't know how to walk right. It wasn't following me, exactly, more like tethered, mimicking. I scrubbed the timeline forward. My figure walked out of frame, the shadow behind it followed, but half a beat late, like it had to watch to learn. I tried downloading the clip. The software froze. Then the app crashed. I reloaded the console. The file was gone. I checked backups. Corrupted. I checked the physical hallway. Empty. But the glass door, still there. I stared at it for a long time, until I saw my reflection again. No shadow, not behind me, but not mine either. The head moved a fraction slower than I did, then stopped when I moved. I haven't gone back since that night. I filed a leave request, citing medical reasons. They didn't ask for more. Sometimes I checked the building camera online, the public-facing one from the street. Most nights it's just still, lit windows. But once, a few weeks ago, I paused the feed at 3:08 a.m., and in 1 second of blurred footage, I saw something shift behind the lobby glass, like breath against a pane. You can't always trust what you see, but what imitates you best doesn't always want to be seen. Sometimes it waits for you to notice it, so it can stop pretending. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Story 3. Every light flickered, except the one above the supply closet. This happened to me in the fall of 2020. I was working night maintenance at a mid-sized hospital on the outskirts of Dayton, Ohio. I wasn't a nurse or an orderly, just part of the facilities crew. We handled all the unglamorous stuff, checking the boiler, replacing light panels, rerouting backup power when storms rolled in. The hospital had been built in the late 70s. Additions were tacked on over the years, creating these weird architectural seams where hallways didn't quite line up. Some stairwells led to walls. There were even elevators that didn't open on all floors. We joked that the place was like a memory, trying to remember itself. I worked the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. For most of that time, the hospital was in a kind of limbo. Lights on, machines humming, but few people around. Sometimes the silence was comforting, other times it wasn't. It started with the flickering. One night, I got a work order to check lighting issues on the second floor of the East Wing, a row of storage rooms, disused exam rooms, and one locked supply closet at the end. The report said lights were cycling abnormally. I got up there around 12:15 a.m. All the fixtures were on the same line, controlled by one breaker, one feed. Every light, from the hallway fluorescents to the recessed ceiling bulbs, flickered every few seconds, not random, a pulse, every 7 seconds, except one. The bulb above the locked supply closet stayed solid, bright, unchanging. It looked wrong. There's something about an exception that draws your eyes to it, like a glitch in a pattern. I stood there for a few minutes, counting the flickers. 1, 2, 3, pulse. The entire corridor dipped into momentary shadow, except that one spot, the closet. Steady glow, a circular bloom of light on the tile. I radioed the front desk, asked if the closet was in use. Nope, they said. Hasn't been opened in years. No key on file. It's sealed. I tried the handle anyway, metal, no play. I went back the next night with a stepladder and pulled the panel plate in the ceiling above. All the lights fed from the same conduit. No reason that bulb should be unaffected. I even switched out the tube with a new one. Same result. That night, I marked the junction box, labeled it for follow-up, and moved on. But I kept noticing it. Week after week, the flicker continued. Sometimes slower, sometimes faster, depending on how overloaded the grid was, but that one bulb never wavered. Eventually, I brought it up to Marcus, the guy who'd worked maintenance there the longest. I asked him if he'd ever noticed the closet light. He just paused, then said, "Yeah, it's always been like that." Any idea why? Nope. That was it. He wouldn't say more. But that night, when I passed through the east wing again, I swear, for the first time, the bulb looked brighter. Not like it was malfunctioning, more like it was watching. About a month after I started noticing the light, something else happened. I was sorting through old maintenance files, part of a backlogged archival project the head tech had been pushing for. We had thousands of old work orders, service photos, even film reels from the 80s when everything was still done by hand. I was flipping through a folder marked East Wing Refit, 1992, when I came across a photo. It was a Polaroid, dated, faded but clear enough. The image showed a small room, maybe 10 by 10 feet, with an old-style hospital bed, bare mattress, no sheets, white tile, overhead bulb casting a harsh cone of light, a small sink, a rusted cart in the corner, no windows. Something about the photo hit me wrong. It looked familiar. I brought it to Marcus and asked where it was. He stared at it for a long time before finally saying, "That's not on any floor." "What do you mean?" "I've walked every square inch of this place. That room's not part of the structure." I pressed further, asked if maybe it had been demoed or sealed off. He shook his head. "There's no record of any room like that. You can check the original plans." So I did. I spent the next 2 nights going through blueprints, old layouts. Nothing matched. Then I scanned the photo into my phone, uploaded it, ran a reverse image search. No results. I tried geotagging metadata. Blank. That night I took the photo home with me. I left it on my nightstand, stared at it for a while before falling asleep. When I woke up, I was cold, not home. I was lying on a plastic mattress, no pillow. My hands were by my sides, not under the blanket, because there wasn't one. The light above me was fluorescent. I sat up. White tile, stainless steel sink, metal cart in the corner. It was the room. I didn't feel groggy or drugged, just lucid, alert. I stood and walked to the door. It had no handle. I banged on it, called out, nothing. Then, after what felt like 15 minutes, the light above me flickered once, just once, and I was back in my bed, like I'd never left. But the photo was gone. Only the blank file folder remained. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I was on that mattress again. I stopped talking to Marcus. Not out of anger, just I didn't know how to explain what was happening. For weeks I avoided the East Wing. I rerouted my sweeps, blamed power outages or elevator errors, but the light kept calling me back. That's what it felt like, a kind of hum in the base of my spine, pulling. Then one night I arrived for my shift and saw a work order waiting on the desk. East Wing, supply closet, door ajar. No name. No timestamp, but the order was flagged urgent. I almost ignored it, but around 3 a.m., I gave in. I walked the corridor, flashlight tight in my hand. All the lights were off, every bulb dark except one. The bulb above the supply closet, still shining, only this time flickering. Soft pulses. I approached slowly. The door, once sealed, now stood cracked open about 2 inches. I pushed it. The door creaked inward. Inside, nothing. No shelves, no mops, just bare tile floor and a single light bulb hanging from a chain. I stepped in. No sound, no airflow. I turned in a slow circle. Then I saw it. On the far wall, just above floor level. A single sentence, written in dust. Go back to sleep. The moment I read it, the light went out. Complete darkness. I turned, heart pounding, and pushed the door. It opened. I stepped into the hallway, only to find every light now glowing. No flicker, no silence, just the hum of normalcy. The closet, gone. Just a blank wall where the door had been. I backed away, one step at a time. Later that morning, I tried to pull the surveillance footage. The East Wing feed was labeled under maintenance. I asked the IT tech about it. He checked the server. System was disabled at 2:59 a.m., rebooted at 3:07, the exact window I had been there. I filed a report. No one followed up. I left that job 2 months later. I took the graveyard shift at a different facility, one with simpler wiring, fewer blind spots. But sometimes, when I close my eyes in the early hours, I still see that room, that bulb, that sentence. And I remember how warm the tile felt beneath my bare feet, like it had been waiting for me to lie back down and go to sleep.